Welcome to No Tourists Allowed, a podcast where two recognized travel industry executives with a combined 71 years on the inside of travel and technology give up their secrets to the thing everyone wants to do. Travel better, spend less, and see more of the world.
Hello, everyone. I'm Mike Putman.
And I'm James Sorora, and we are live from a beautiful Omni Resort somewhere near Orlando today. A championship golf resort, apparently. I know you don't know anything about championship golf. But...
Yeah, they got a couple of nice golf courses here, and they have a father-son PGA event, which normally happens in December during kind of the slow period, so we should see that coming up. Actually, I guess it's this month. It's either this month or next month. The father-son, like Tiger Woods, plays with his son, and they have a big time. But, down here in a little bit warmer Florida, although this conference room that we're meeting in is ice cold, I'm afraid to sneeze because it could send out frozen projectiles. But anyhow, glad to be here and glad to have a special guest with us, Mr. Ray Snisky, who is the group president of ALG and ALG Vacations and Amstar. So welcome, Ray. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Mike. Thrilled to be here.
And Ray is an old friend, one of our most important partners at my company, and a very well-liked and respected man in the industry, Ray. So that's quite an accomplishment to have such an important position and still be liked.
You're too kind, but I appreciate the compliment. Thank you very much.
It's good to see you're a Boston Red Sox fan, based on your what's behind you.
Well, funny story. My daughter is going. My daughter's going to Northeastern right now, and I told her, "Listen, enjoy Boston, love everything. With a Red Sox jersey, you're paying for college."
My son goes to Northeastern too, Ray. So there we have that.
Well, world. Now I know I'm on the right track.
Well, good. So, Ray, we like to start off the conversation with a few personal rapid-fire questions where we try to find out a little bit more about you as a traveler and your personal travels and corporate travel. So just the first thing that comes to mind, just real quickly, we'll run through a few questions. First of all, what is your favorite hotel brand or an individual property?
Well, I could tell you that I love new, fancy, and innovative. And so it's the new Impression brand that's part of the Hyatt Inclusive Collection. These are a few resorts that have just kind of blown the doors off of the inclusive segment and would be rivaled any other resort in throughout Mexico and the Caribbean and other parts of the world. Just really, truly spectacular brand.
Excellent. And then what is your favorite destination?
You know, what a hard question for people like us that are travel lifers. I guess if I just had one day to spend somewhere, it probably would be Lake Como in Italy. That, the Swiss Alps overlooking it, and my wife and I, part of our honeymoon we spent there, and it's just a magical place.
Beautiful choice.
Be a long way to go for one day if that was just your one-day trip.
Depends on how important it is.
Yep, that's true, and how fast you can get there. If there was one trip that you've done in destination, and I'm thinking about a day trip or a day tour or possibly a shore excursion if you would have been on a cruise, does one come to mind, something that just stands head and shoulders above everything else?
Another tough question when you travel as much as we all do, but I think the one that jumps out at me is I took a helicopter with my wife and at the time my 4-year-old son, and we landed in the Jurassic Park waterfall scene from the movie. And landed, went out there and took some pictures. And then we actually, on the Big Island, I had planned a day where we actually landed on maybe the infield of a baseball field on the cliff overlooking the ocean off of the Big Island. And I had set up, or someone had set up, champagne, a cheese board and everything. And so it was really spectacular. We landed in this little grass area, went overlooking the ocean and had a little champagne and cheese. It wasn't, I think I got credit for being romantic, but we had our 4-year-old with us, so it wasn't really the most romantic experience I've ever had. But those two probably jump out of the pack.
Well, certainly adventurous. You'd be surprised how many times helicopters figure into the answer to this question. we get a lot of helicopters onto the glaciers in Alaska and stuff. So something about helicopters very memorable. I find them very memorable because I'm scared to death in them. They are the least aerodynamic vehicle possible. If something happens, you drop out of the sky like a rock. So that's why I find them memorable.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think the thing we all look for to do something that we don't do regularly.
Yeah.
So that's why I think those excursions are fun and so unique. And I'm really glad, James, I didn't have the same thought process with you when I was with my wife.
Well, I could tell you some stories.
As many airplanes as I've been on one helicopter in my life, and I was petrified. And flying is second nature.
Clearly, we do not have a helicopter company sponsor.
Yes.
Podcast.
So just a couple of more. Are you an aisle or window guy?
Aisle, 100%.
All right, good. And
you need the spillover, right?
Right, exactly.
How about carry-on or checked bag?
Check bag when there's no other option available on the planet. Otherwise, everything's a carry.
Good man there. Well, great.
I'm going to keep it zipped because I have 3 bags over in the corner.
Yeah, James just flew in today, and he's got quite a bit of. He has an entourage that has to help him with his luggage when he travels.
Yeah.
Well, great. Well, can you just tell our listeners just a little bit about ALG and what the brand stands for and all the different products and areas that you cover?
Sure. It's ALG Vacations, and we have 8 different vacation brands that all have different value propositions for the customer. And, we really focus, our largest focus is on the all-inclusive segment. And so heavy emphasis into Mexico and the Caribbean from a business, but continuing to expand. We expanded much more focused on Europe. And so we've grown over 200% in Europe in the last 12 months, which is fantastic. And I think the thing we're also seeing is one of the outcomes from COVID is customers are a lot more daring than they were previously. And they're looking for different experiences from what had been their repeated run-of-the-mill, vacations. And I think you're seeing things, for example, I just looked at a report about 2 months ago that showed we had 5,000 room nights at the Rio in Dubai with no marketing, no promotion, just people. I think people are looking at it and saying, look, I trust IntelliTravel. I trust ALG Vacations. I trust Rio or another hotel, partner. I don't mind going to a place that I'm not really familiar with because I feel like I'll be well taken care of. And so we're seeing business pop up in all parts of the world, and we're adjusting our product delivery accordingly. Beyond
Europe and the Caribbean, are there other markets that your brand serve?
Really everywhere around the world. We're real big drivers of business to Vegas. We're a preferred Disney company and driving business to those resorts as well as Universal Studios, but really all around the world. In addition to our brands that we own, we also manage the vacation programs for United Airlines and Southwest Airlines. So their entire route network is available. But we work with, probably over 100 or 200 different scheduled air carriers all around the world. So lots of options for customers.
Ray, Apple Leisure Group Vacations, it's not a household name to consumers. And yet one of the largest leisure organizations in the world, maybe the largest. I don't know, I'll go out on a limb. I'll say that. You'll take me to school. But so why is it that our listeners, our customers, travelers are not so familiar with that name when you guys have such a profound place in the marketplace? Your brand's FunJet, Travel Impressions, Hyatt Inclusive Collection. Why don't they know who Apple is?
Yeah, that's a great point. I guess it's somewhat analogous to General Motors and all their different car brands, in that our forward-facing brands are the vacation companies, and you space on some of them. In addition to United Vacations and Southwest Vacations, we have FunJet Vacations, Apple Vacations, Travel Impressions, and Blue Sky Tours, and all of those are bookable through IntelliTravel, and we have a preferred relationship with IntelliTravel, and so we continually work on enhancing those brands to make it easier for IntelliTravel to provide great experiences for their customers.
So it's that you don't really sell directly to the public, right? You sell through partners like IntelliTravel or others, and I think
that's our primary focus. Yeah, our primary focus is through things like IntelliTravels. When we're doing vacation brands for airlines and so forth, we have to have
that's different. Yeah,
options. So we do some consumer direct business, but our number one focus is being the engine behind really great travel advisors like yourself.
Yeah, you're like the man behind the curtain. That's what I want our listeners to understand. This incredible reach and incredible expertise. We rely on it as travel professionals. We rely on the expertise of your amazing teams, and you don't always get the credit. So I like talking about it a little bit here. Tell us about the Hyatt relationship.
That's a great question, and I think that we in the past have been a family-owned business, and then we merged. Two family-owned businesses merged together. The two largest tour operators or wholesalers in the United States merged together in 2018, and then we were owned by private equity for a few more years, and then our forever home was when Hyatt Corporation, Hyatt Hotels and Resorts, acquired us in November of 2021. And during that time period, it's really been a fantastic experience. If you were to look at kind of the DNA, everything from purpose and values and focal points, it was almost for two companies. If you'd taken the names off the top of the circles, it was almost the same exact blueprint. And so it really has been amazing. Led by Mark Hompelmazian, who's the CEO of Hyatt, came in with a mindset of respecting the business that we were doing, respecting our leadership and how we were conducting the business. And sometimes when people buy somebody, and sometimes it's subconscious, they just think, well, I must be smarter than you because I had the money to be able to acquire your company. And that's not always the case. And so Mark was very respectful on, you guys know about this business and he wants to learn and so forth, which is why we've been so purposeful in integrating into Hyatt and really making sure we're doing the right thing and we don't jeopardize the DNA that had been in place. And so it was a springboard for Hyatt to be the leader in the all-inclusive space. Our sister company at the time, AIM Resorts, was one of the largest all-inclusive companies in the world, and certainly from a U.S. customer base, very, very strong with brands like Secrets and Dreams and Breathless and Zoetry and so forth. So we've really been able to leverage the best of both worlds. We get a lot of the infrastructure and the accelerant of Hyatt's security, cybersecurity, their HR, their other business processes and things along those lines, but really keep our own DNA and how we have that bit. So they've really been an accelerator for us, really bringing out the best that we had to offer in this collaboration. So that doesn't happen too often in acquisitions. Quite often somebody comes in and says, hey, I don't really know a lot about your business, but I want you to start doing this and that and doing things differently. And we really haven't had that. And I think, from that standpoint, it's been an absolute home run.
So Ray, as you've become more vertically integrated with the wholesale company, now the air component and the hotel component, and I think there's some markets that you're running charters out of still. Is that correct?
Absolutely. We do about 500,000 charter seats from the U.S. to different points in Mexico and Caribbean.
But as you're becoming more and more vertically integrated, what are the benefits to the end consumer from having that kind of one company that provides, and I know it might be subsidiaries, but one person looking after you through the whole experience?
Well, I think it really comes with a primary focus of the customer's end-to-end experience. We're not doing a bunch of handoffs. Certainly if they're, booked on American and United or Delta or something, that's a little different. But our ability to really serve the customer and be able to have good information on the customer's needs and wants and so forth. So if you look at our ability now, we can book someone with IntelliTravel, they can book one of our vacation brands, they can book one of our hotels with our vacation brand. When they get to destination, it's our company meeting them and greeting them. Amstar, destination management company, transfers about 40,000 people a week. So it's quite the operation. It's the largest in Mexico and Caribbean. And so that allows us a lot of ability to service the customer and have some leverage and buying power for excursions and things along those lines. And, many of the most experiential parts of travel are the things they do when they're there. What's the authentic experience they have, whether that be swimming with the dolphins or, having a sunset cruise with their spouse. And so it's really important for all of us to make sure the customer is they look at us to provide them relevant choices and provide them some of the buying power to get them good deals and so forth. But that's what our role is almost to be a sage advisor in the destination on, if you're going to be here for 7 days, here's the best things that you should do while you're here. Here's a property that fits your needs. I think more times than not, customers are more worried about making a mistake and booking the wrong hotel or not knowing the absolute best things to do when you're there and so forth. That idea of I'll just land and I'll figure it out sometimes is limiting. And so the more we can get good information to the customer to really understand what appeals to them is kind of vital for all of our success.
Yeah, that's a wonderful view, actually, of how vacationing has evolved. And so I got to ask you, a man in your position, where do you see it going? What's coming next in the vacation product, the vacation experience? What's on your, sort of planning schedule for the next couple of years?
Yeah, to me, I think, there's that old phrase, stay close to people that are smarter than you. And I'm spending a lot of time with some of our really, really bright people on our team, understanding things about artificial intelligence and ChatGPT and all these new tools that how do you take what the customer is looking for and put it in the consumable environment so that they can really ensure that they're getting the best of their trip when they're there. And, and sometimes it's even just bringing it to the basics of, there's a reason why we have 2 ears and 1 mouth. We got to spend more time listening and understanding instead of just trying to sell a customer that is the most popular thing that we like to sell. I think where you secure yourself going into the future is providing the right matchup of the right products and services and experience for that particular customer. And so working through with your organization, James, is vital for us to give you the tools and be able to do things much more quickly than you did in the past. And so, we have an AI bot that we're rolling out where, when your advisor's on the phone with our advisor asking a few questions, I don't have someone scrolling through help screens. They start typing in some of the information and all this stuff gets queued up. And so the ability to provide that experience and that knowledge and the right answers to the right questions as quickly as possible, building confidence with the customer, is a big focal point for us.
That's really important and certainly makes a big difference in the customer experience. Ray, is there any undiscovered destinations or any new destinations you see opening up in the coming year or two?
I think the amount of undiscovered destinations is getting smaller and smaller as years go by. But I'm excited about a relatively unknown destination. That's Tulum, south of Cancun, and really it's widely referred to as one of the more authentic Mexican experiences, and lots of great environments for the customer, lots of fun, day music and enjoyment and those kinds of things, and lots of unique, authentic shops and things. But it's a haul from the Cancun airport, so I'm thrilled that the new Tulum airport is opening up, and it actually is opening up in December. But we're excited that United, Delta, and American have all announced nonstop service that'll launch in March. And so we've already got a footprint at that hotel. Our Amstar business is there, and we'll have that as another option so that you'd be able to tackle that growing Riviera Maya from the south or from the north in Cancun. So I think that's going to open up a lot of experiences that some people just thought, gosh, I'm not sure I wanted to drive an hour and a half or 2 hours from the airport to get to that place. And so you'll be able to cover the fort will be surrounded with new ways to get there. And this is, great service in all the hubs of those major carriers. So I think a lot of opportunity to explore some places there, which is going to be fun.
Really glad to hear you mention Tulum and the new airport. I think it's really important too. I was there earlier this year. There's a great archaeological site, Mayan archaeological site in Tulum to add to the experience. And it's just naturally very beautiful.
No, I think when you look at that is, the Cancun airport is getting pretty saturated. And so, with that being the single point of entry for all these fantastic resorts that are continuing to be popping up, and the quality of these resorts, while remaining very authentic, is really what's impressed me most. It's got luxury plus authenticity. And when you can marry those two up, it really creates some memorable experiences for folks.
Yeah, I agree. Great destination. So, Ray, when you travel personally, because you do travel so much, like us, we're going to mine you for a minute on some tips for our listeners. Is there something you do that when you get in destination or at a new property or when you travel with your family, is there anything you do that helps you get a real authentic sense of place?
Yeah, great question. And I do this in cities in the U.S. as well as international destinations. Is my insatiable, search for authenticity is I want to know, where do the locals go? Where's the place that's, renowned, locally and I have a couple of examples of that. So I'll go to, if I go to a restaurant, I'll go and ask all the waiters, if you can't include your restaurant, where would you go to have a meal? And I did that in the Little Italy section of the Bronx. And I grew up in the Bronx. I would think I would know. But the issue is, when I grew up in the Bronx, I didn't have any money to go to fancy places. So now that I have a couple of dollars in my pocket, but I would go, and I found this place, Roberto's, in the Little Italy section of the Bronx. And I bring 30 people to dinner the Friday after Thanksgiving every year. It's a new tradition for our family. Same thing when I was in Rome. I was asking some waiters, and they all talked about Ristorante Grano, this small place that only caters to locals. And listen, you're not staying in business in Rome if you're not catering to locals, if you're not fantastic. And it's a really unassuming place, but it's just absolutely fantastic. And I do that in most places. And I think that it goes with excursions. It goes with other things. Going to the concierge and getting through that initial, I only want to sell you what I make the most money on, and so forth. And sometimes a little tip can help as well. But what's your signature thing to do while you're in this city or in this town or so forth? If you had your family here, or you had your brother came for one day, what would you have him do? And you believe once you get through that first little layer, they start pouring out information. And so it's worked out really well for me in my career.
That's a great tip. Great tip. Just one last question, and we'll let you go, Ray. Is there anything that you do, any hack when you travel, things you might do on an airplane to get through the airport quicker, or to make your flight more enjoyable, or something you do at a hotel that most people might not think of?
Well, I'm sure other people think of it, but I make myself completely independent on a flight. I've got noise canceling headphones. I've got downloaded the latest apps and those kinds of things, and so forth to make sure I'm able to do that. And then in hotel, it's kind of the example I just shared with you, is I want to capture, our time is limited. And so if I'm going to eat in the hotel restaurant, I want it to be their finest restaurant and then finest doesn't mean most expensive, but what's the one that everyone feels is so memorable? And so a little bit of planning the day I arrive kind of sets the tone for the rest of my trip. And because, what our biggest fear is, I'm going to be somewhere for 5 days. I'm not going to do the really cool thing. And so I really try to do everything I can. In most cases, you don't want to wait till you get there. You want to try and do some advanced planning. But when you get there and you can talk to the locals, it's always has an extra value.
Excellent. Really good point. Well, Ray, thanks so much for spending the time with us today. It was great to learn more about you personally and ALG Vacations, and I'm sure our listeners have learned a lot, and we really appreciate your time.
Thank you, Mike. I really appreciate the opportunity, and good to see you, my friend James.
Yes, sir. I'll see you on Arthur Avenue in the Bronx.
I'll be there.
So Ray certainly knows his stuff, doesn't he, James?
Yeah, really a privilege to have a man of his renown and his stature on our podcast. And I enjoyed talking to him. He's a nice guy, too.
Yeah, very nice. Well, one thing we want to remind all of you listeners is to stay tuned throughout the end of the podcast, because today is the big day. We will be announcing the winner of the Virgin Voyage Cruise for Two. So that'll come a little bit later in the podcast. So stay tuned in case your name is called.
Oh, could be you. That's right. It could be you.
You'll have 15 minutes to respond. No, just kidding. But we'll reach out to the winner over the week, and look forward to celebrating that great voyage with you, and would love to hear all the great times and memories that are created from that experience. And speaking of cruise, James, you just came back from a cruise.
I did. Well, the christening of a brand new cruise ship down in Miami, Norwegian Cruise Line's new Viva is the name of the ship. And I have to say, it was spectacular. Now, of course, the christening happened in Miami. So Norwegian decided to style a lot of it around the Latino culture and community in Miami. Also because ship is going to be homeported in San Juan, Puerto Rico. So, and doing the Southern Caribbean from there. So that's another reason. And also the new president of Norwegian Cruise Lines, David Herrera, is of Cuban background. So it all kind of came together. And the godfather of this ship is the pop star, Luis Fonsi. And a lot of people know Despacito. That was a big hit of his, but he's had many hits. He's an amazing performer. He did concerts on the ship after the christening, and we went on a short cruise to the Bahamas. There was also another Latina, young woman pop star. There was a well-known singer now from Puerto Rico. So the whole thing had a Latin flair to it, but it was a glittering event. Lots of VIPs from the travel industry. And then we got to spend 4 days on the ship eating at all there must be 30 restaurants on board, and all the bars and all the incredible entertainment. The Broadway musical Beetlejuice is performed on board. The full thing, they do it with all the sets, and it's just like going to Broadway. And there are all the crazy slides and the drop and all of those things. And you can probably guess I didn't do those because every time I look at one of those drop water slides, I think of Augustus Goop in the original Willy Wonka movie where he gets stuck in the tube. That would be me. So I don't do those, but I do the go-kart racing. So at the top of this ship, they have a 2-deck go-kart race with these very powerful go-karts. No joke, these karts. And you go out over the edge of the ship a little bit, and you race around on the track. Really, really fun. And this is the Prima class of ships, which started with the Prima, which was launched last year, now the Viva, and there'll be several more of them. And I must say, this is really like the best food at sea is on Norwegian now. And I stayed in the ship within a ship concept on board, which is called the Haven. So you have private restaurant, private pool, butlers, and concierges. It really is the way to go.
Yeah, that sounds really nice. But also, I remember, so James called me while he was waiting to get on the ship, and he was telling me about VIP this and the Haven and all this. and I said, well, what do you, if you're a VIP, what are you doing, waiting in line? He didn't have a good answer for that one.
No, to be fair to Norwegian, I waited 5 minutes, I think. And they even gave me a private cabana on the private islands, an air-conditioned cabana with beautiful food and drinks, and there's a Moet bar, a champagne bar there in the private area of the private island. I mean, really very splashy, and they've done a great job. I mean, kudos to Norwegian. This is an important new ship, and if you want to cruise the Caribbean and have a premium experience for not necessarily a premium price, I would certainly look into Norwegian Viva. So that's where I was, Mike, and we're traveling on to Cancun together later in the week. But you've been following some travel industry news, I understand.
Yeah, quite a bit. And there was something that really came onto my radar screen this week. And it's something that's not necessarily new, but this is a strategy that is, it was at least new to me, and something that I tried over the last couple of weeks. And that is now for your flights, if you want to make a change, you can do so with a lot of the domestic carriers in-app. So the apps make it very easy. If you don't buy that lowest bucket fare, you don't have to buy a premium fare, but just not what American calls basic economy, and I think other airlines use similar terms, that gives you the ability to make some changes. So not the full coach fare, but just not the bottom bucket fare. So here's the strategy is, once you make your booking, whether you make it through a travel agent or you make it directly with the airline, What you do is you go on to Google, Google Flights, and you do a search, and you can narrow down your search so that you're searching for those exact same flights, right? So you book your ticket through whatever means you want, and then you go to Google Flights, and you do a search, find those same flights, and then you say, of course, you don't want to buy the ticket again. You say, I want a price alert. And so you set up for a price alert, and then what happens is Google will monitor those flights for you, and anytime the price goes down, they will send you an email or a text, whatever you designate. Then you can go back on the American app, the Delta app, or the United app, whichever app it is, and you can say, I want to change my flight, and then you can change your flight to the same departure or the same flights that take advantage of that saving. So, as an example, I had a flight going to Cancun, and I actually wanted to make a change because I wanted to fly out a day earlier, and I made the change, and my price went down. And then I put an alert out there and just saw that the prices went down again, and I went back, and the price went down again. So I was able to do that, and now you don't have these change fees. You don't have a lot of the having to call the airlines. You can just do all this in an automated fashion, and it automatically reissues your ticket, and then you just get a credit voucher. You don't get your money back, but you get a credit voucher that you can use towards future travel. So really good tip, and I tried it this week, worked like a champ. So that's one of the things I wanted to share with our listeners. Have you tried that, James?
I haven't tried it, but I was listening to you explain it, and I certainly could try it. I know that I use, of course, travel agents to book my air, and they do some of that, but it's a lot of work, and they can't be watching all the time. Recently, on a flight to Spain, I actually saved $1,000 off of business class air by canceling and rebooking it because my professional travel advisor was watching it. But certainly I could do that, set up some Google alerts and do it myself. And I like to self-serve because I like to be able to do it at 1 o'clock in the morning or whatever, not have to pick up the phone and talk to anybody. I like the automation. So I would do it.
Yeah. It does work. It does work, and I'll continue to do that.
Mike, in one of our earlier episodes, you were enamored by the news of a 3-year cruise that was being offered. And I remember we talked about it a little bit. Well, there's been an update, hasn't there?
Yeah, it's been an unfortunate update. Life at Sea Cruises, which had been promoting this cruise for quite some time, announced about 2 weeks before their departure in early November that there was going to be a delay of, I think it was a couple of weeks. So a couple of weeks rolled by, and then 3 days before the departure, which the origination city was in Istanbul, they said the cruise has been canceled. So you have all of these, well, I should say all of these. I think there were 120 cabins they had for sale. And a lot of these folks had sold their homes. They had,
made arrangements to be away for 3 years.
Yeah, done all these things. And many of them were actually in Istanbul waiting for the ship to leave. And they received notification from this company that there was an indefinite delay, due to them not being able to acquire the rights to that particular ship. So a really unfortunate thing in the industry, and you don't hear about things like this happening very often in our industry, but that certainly did not go well for the people who signed up for that, which I'm really, I feel very sorry for them. The cruise line or the soon-to-be cruise line company, Life at Sea Cruises, did intervene, and they flew people back, and they made arrangements for some hotel accommodations at their expense. And I think they tried to do the right thing. But
yeah, refunds. They were offering refunds.
But I think this was just a case of very poor planning and execution by this Life at Sea Cruises company. But they are saying that they are going to come back with another offering next quarter. I don't think I would be one of those first people to go on a Life at Sea cruise.
But a neat idea.
Yeah.
Definitely a neat idea.
And there's several other companies that are doing it or that have plans to do it. And there are the Resident Sea, which has actual cabins staterooms that you actually purchase, and you actually own a piece of the ship. So that's out there, and so all these are not bad ideas. One other thing I wanted to share with our listeners before we announce our winner is that prior to Thanksgiving, we had a discussion about large numbers of travelers that were going to be in the air and moving around the airports and on the ground as well around Thanksgiving time. And the TSA just came out and said that the Sunday after Thanksgiving was the highest number of travelers at any given time that have gone through the TSA.
Yeah, since they've been keeping records.
Yeah.
Now, the Sunday after Thanksgiving normally is the busiest travel day of the year, but this has broken all previous records. So if anyone's out there still talking about comparisons to 2019, we're talking about the pandemic, cut it out already.
So
yeah, that conversation is over. We've wiped every record. The growth has been incredible. We're not talking about 2019 anymore. We're looking forward and talking about what's coming.
Absolutely.
And speaking of what's coming, we've got a giveaway. Somebody out there is going to be very excited. Now, I was a little overwhelmed to hear how many entries we had, and like 38,000 entries in our Virgin Voyages Cruise for Two giveaway. Now, I'm not blaming you. Everyone should have entered, but I just didn't realize so many of you were paying attention.
Yeah, it was a great turnout. And yeah, we just learned from our executive producer, Nathaniel, who does a great job for us, by the way, but don't mention him enough, but great job arranging for lots of things and allowing James and I just to sneak in, do our bit and get out. He takes care of all the details. But before we give this away, I do want to say really heartfelt thanks to our very close partners, Virgin Voyages, for helping us donate this trip that we're able to give away. So big thanks to those guys. What a tremendous product. It is a unique product. And I just had some friends come back last month, and they said this was the best trip they've ever taken in their life. So
and we do really well. Our customers are very happy. Our travelers very happy on Virgin Voyages. They have a huge repeat business percentage because it's such a great experience. And we're going to ask the person who wins. It'll be totally optional, but we're going to ask them if they'll come back after their cruise and just spend a few minutes with us and tell us.
Yeah,
right.
Share their experience.
Okay, it's drum roll.
Without further ado, the grand winner of the Virgin Voyage giveaway is Mr. Robert Gibson. Hopefully you're listening, Robert. And otherwise, we'll be sending you a notification via email.
Oh, I thought you were going to say, otherwise, we're going to give it to someone else.
Yeah, give it to the next person. But you have won a beautiful 7-day cruise for two. The cruise just has to take place between now and the end of June. And it's good for any 7-day cruise. And it's for a balcony cabin. They call it something special. I don't have it in front of me. But it's not like the inside El Cheapo cabin. This is, you're going to go in luxury. So congratulations.
But our producer, Nathaniel, will be in touch. You've given us your contact information. And should we not be able to reach Robert, or he's unable to go, then we might be back here next episode.
That's right.
Away again.
That's right.
So we'll have something great. Look, it's a season of thanks. We've just passed Thanksgiving. So we're very thankful for you, all of our listeners. Thank you for participating in this. It's a wonderful way to mark the holiday season, to be able to give away this cruise. And then once we cross over into the beginning of January for next year, we'll have something else.
Yeah,
wonderful to give away.
Could be. So please share No Tourists Allowed to your friends and family. Have them download the podcast. The more listeners we have, the more prizes we have. So there's a little bit. So thanks again for listening. I hope you have a wonderful week, and we look forward to speaking to you again next week.
Yeah, Mike and I on our way to Cancun, and maybe we'll talk to you from there.
Absolutely.
Thanks for being with us, everyone.
Bye-bye.